Hello, this is Mark Powls, host of Verity Seeker. Local recording artist Jamison Brummel stopped by the studio to talk about the remastering of his former album, Hope in Times of Pain, Ashes of Tyranny. And so I agreed to sit down and talk with him about it. Here's the interview. So they can check out that interview as well.
Yeah.
So why are you doing this, Jamison? What happened there that caused you to do that?
So there's CD Baby was the company that I used originally to upload all of my albums and everything. The first album in 2019, I think 2019.
Golly, it was way
that it
back
came
then.
out. And then that's when I finally finished it up and published it. And then in 2025 for this Hope in Times of Pain was the most recent one. And I encountered somebody, and I didn't know this was, I guess, against their terms of service or whatever, but I encountered somebody that says, hey, I can get you more streams. Do you want to try our service? And I said, okay, sure. So it was probably like me being a naive sort of thing. And then I got a notice from CD Baby about 2 months later, well, 3-4 months later, after I had used that service, saying that they got a report from one of the streaming partners that there was what they called abusive streaming practices. And so, I don't know. I think it probably had something to do with them doing the whatever they did to boost my streaming numbers. And I don't know how they did it, but apparently it was not a good... I guess they must... You can have services that do that by like curating playlists and doing like, I guess, ways that aren't against the terms of service. But anyway, so basically, I guess they didn't use one of those good ways. And so I shouldn't have used them in the first place. But anyway, so CD Baby took everything down. Took all of the 2019 album down, took all of this most recent album down, and just said, we don't want to work with you anymore. But because I had some other material that I was trying to put up that I didn't want at that time, I didn't want it to be connected to Ashes, I decided to go find another distributor. And so I found through the software program that I use, they introduced me to a place called DistroKid. And they're more like a subscription thing. You pay a yearly subscription. You can release however much music you want. This isn't a plug for them. That's just who I found. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I found them, and I already had them at the time that CD Baby pulled my album down. So I was just like, well, I guess I'll use DistroKid to try and put it all back up. So I guess it worked okay because it's up and lyrics aren't there yet, but they will be there. Yeah. DistroKid has a pretty easy way for you to submit lyrics and put them on there. So at some point, they said it usually takes a week to 2 weeks for the lyrics to show up. But somebody, upon listening probably a week from now to this album, will be able to pull up the lyrics and actually look at them. You can do synced lyrics where it actually goes along with the music, but I didn't have time for that.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to pull them up and like read them while the song's going, that's fine and dandy, but I wasn't going to sit there and do that part.
Yeah, people can read.
Yeah, people can read, and I think they have the ability to hear when my voice is doing something. Yeah. So anyway.
Wow, that's interesting. I guess CD Baby and some of these companies have policies where they don't want to share, if they're doing that service for you, they don't want you doing other things. So there are strings attached when you're working with the company.
It's also possible that they got wind that I also had something through DistroKid, and I don't know. I don't know what happened with that, but
it's your music. It should be.
Yeah, it is. It's CD Baby. I made sure and read after CD Baby told me that they were taking all my stuff down. I made sure and read through the fine print, and it said that I owned all my material and all of that stuff. So
what's the issue?
Yeah, the issue is, I don't know. They just didn't like how I did something or something. So
yeah, that's past history now.
Past history now. I'm using this other place, DistroKid, and they seem pretty easy to work with. And I haven't gone through and uploaded my other album yet. I was trying to decide if that one, which is called Phoenix, I was trying to decide if I was going to do complete remasters of that one as well. I don't think I will. I've got physical CDs of it still, and so what I'll probably just do is I'll probably rip the WAV file off of the CD, and as long as there's not skips, pops, whatever, then I'll just re-upload them in the 44.1 kilohertz wave form.
Yeah.
So we'll just do it that way. I won't completely remaster that. But with the Hope in Times of Pain, I'd been messing around with some new plugins and different recording effects and things like that. And so I thought, well, what if because I finished the first Hope in Times of Pain release, and then I started working with these other plugins. I didn't want to work with them until I had gotten done with the Hope in Times of Pain release, because I wanted to get it done, and I was used to using those plugins, and I didn't want to rework my whole chain. And so then after I released it and I started using these other ones, I kind of like them better. So this re-release allowed me to put up new mixes with those new plugins. And I was able to kind of get it. I was able to get a lot closer to what I heard in my head.
And for those people out there who don't know about recording and mixing, the plugins are certain amps and guitar sounds and things like
certain amps, guitar sounds, like reverbs and effects for vocals, and just any kind of processing. You used to go into a recording studio and they'd have all this analog gear with, big rack compressors and everything like that. And, well, the way that I do it is I essentially just do everything. My computer houses all of that. And, so it's all digital. None of it is analog except for my, fingers plinking the guitar sometimes. But, it goes direct into the computer, and so all the noise that you hear is generated essentially by the computer with signals from my guitar or my microphone or whatever.
Okay. And your percussion is still digital as well, right? You were doing that because, you can't hire a drummer. And
no, I can't hardly hire a drummer, and the ones I know are super busy, and there's not really an opportunity even for me to have them record very well. I do have an e-drum kit now, but even that, there's, if they're not used to an e-drum kit and they're used to playing on acoustic drums, then that can be different. And so
they're pretty. They can be very temperamental when it comes to digital drums, and that I get that. So it's all Jamison. It's all you. So you write the stuff and you rehearse it yourself, practice the parts, all the guitar harmonies and everything, and then put the vocals on there. And you would classify it as what kind of heavy metal? I think there was a classification last time you were
most of it would probably fall under the classification metalcore.
Metalcore.
That's kind of your like Killswitch Engage, All That Remains type music.
Okay. For somebody who's not really heavily into heavy metal music, metalcore, how would you personally describe that type of, it's really the vocals, right? Or is it just the drums, or is it the guitar that creates that?
It's kind of the style. It's metalcore is usually more of a, like you have your upbeat sung choruses, sometimes with some vocal harmonies. I put a lot of vocal harmonies in there. So usually what metalcore consists of is you've got a mix of, let's say, new age and classic style metal riffs with the verses are usually a screaming vocal, and then the chorus is usually a sung vocal, and so it's got like the hook in the chorus to get you. Now there is much heavier genre, such as like death metal, which is just basically screaming the whole time. That's too much for me.
Yeah.
I have to have some beauty with the music
Yeah.
that I'm making. So
Yeah,
I can't just do the noise the whole time. But so it's basically, the best way to describe it is, I think, about as aggressive as you can get while still having the music have a good sound quality and be easy to listen to.
Yeah. So really in the vocals, you have both. You have like the pure singing voice. And then when you want that distortion, like on a guitar for the voice, you put that in your voice. And that's what you would consider the kind of a
Right.
harsh sound.
Now, when I say I put that in my voice, I actually use my voice to do it. When you hear like all the gravelly stuff and the screaming and stuff, that's not an effect with the computer.
Right.
That's me
Doing that. Yeah.
So it's a specific set of techniques that can be difficult to learn, but once you learn them, then I don't have to worry about really hurting my voice doing that sort of stuff. Because if you actually were to listen to the recording process as I was doing it, my singing vocals are actually louder than my screaming vocals because of the way that I have to do the technique and everything like that.
Without destroying your vocal cords.
Right. Without, yeah.
I don't know how you do it. You know, that'd be a whole nother podcast, you know, to talk about that technique.
Right.
But,
yeah. Well, nobody's interested in that. I don't
Well,
think. They just want to listen to the music and hear it.
Well, that sounds really interesting. So Hope in Times of Pain is the newest.
Yes, correct.
But it was actually released on CD Baby back in, you said 2009?
No, 2025.
2025.
That was the first iteration of Hope in Times of Pain.
Okay.
That's when I finished writing it and I got it out. And then, of course, CD Baby said, hey, we're going to take all your stuff down.
Yeah.
And if you knew what the other one looked like, this has a new logo and everything.
Yeah, I like that.
As well. I had somebody reached out to me. I can't remember his name, Raphael or something. Anyway, messaged my page, said, hey, I heard you're re-releasing the album. I'd like to do some cover art for you.
Really? Wow.
I said, well, why don't you send me something and we'll talk about pricing later. And so I paid him to do this.
Yeah, really good artist, by the way. I was impressed.
I really, it kind of mixes what I was already thinking the first time when I made the logo and what I kind of wanted, and so I don't know how he got in my brain and picked that out, but anyway, it's kind of a combination of the ideas I had and the actual logo that ended up being put on the album. So yeah.
Okay.
I think it worked out.
So this is considered a release, remix?
Remaster.
Remastered, okay.
Remaster. Because I used different plugins. I used a different mastering chain. I kind of finished everything up differently a little bit. And so it sounds, the balance and everything is a lot different. You can hear the vocals a lot better, I think. They pop out a lot more.
Okay.
They're not buried in the music like they were before. The guitars, they have a lot more, there's a lot of low mids in the guitars. They're a lot warmer. They're not as abrasive, but they still have that good chunk that you want with metal stuff.
Okay, so the vocals and the lyrics kind of pop out a little bit more.
Yeah, but I would say a lot more, honestly.
Yeah. And I know you love the guitars.
I do.
I know you really want those to come out, but I agree with you that,
Yeah. Well, and I think that's why I like how I did it this time, because there's a lot of low mids in the guitar. The guitar is still very, very present, but it doesn't cover up the vocal as much. And so I was able to kind of get both of them pretty loud without covering one or the other up, because they, instead of having the same frequencies, they both have different ones that are accentuated. Because in the vocals, you don't want a lot of low mids because then it makes it muddy sounding and you don't hear as well what it's. But guitar low mids are great.
Yeah.
So it's just anyway.
Yeah. So Hope in Times of Pain is the newest. You've remastered it, and you had mentioned Phoenix is an older one.
Yes, Phoenix is the one in 2019 that I did. And so I'm going to just be, probably what I'm going to do is I have physical CDs of that. And so probably just do, since I have those, is I'll just rip the sound files off of the CD and then I'll just re-upload them. I still have all of the album art and everything. I just won't do a physical copy this time.
Yeah, everybody's going digital anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I pay for a subscription on Spotify, and that's the best way for me to listen to music these days.
So do I. I just about have to, because if you don't, then you just get whatever you get when you push the play button and it picks for you. And I don't want that.
Yeah. So is there a particular song for those people that haven't heard actually the people that have heard Hope in Times of Pain, maybe they want to hear the new remaster. Is there a song you want to select? We got our laptop here. We're on Spotify if you want to find one here. What is this? And Hope in Times of Pain, is it religious in any way, or is it?
The theme of the album is all Christian based.
Okay.
It's, if you look through the track, the first one is called Gospel, and so
that makes
obviously sense. That's Christian. Well, unless anyway, we could go on a tangent, but I won't. But yes, it is. It's all Christian. They're all kind of different. They have different subjects about. Let's go with This Fire Burns. Let's do that.
What's the name of that one?
This Fire Burns.
This Fire Burns. Okay.
Okay. And it's sort of the theme of this song is kind of the first section of it is mostly aggressive, and it kind of calls out lazy Christians. Like, what are you doing? Why are you just sitting there? Sort of thing.
Okay.
And then later on, it goes through a struggle of sort of my own call and struggling to accept that. And there's a scripture, my God, why have you forsaken me? And I kind of work that in as, why is this necessary kind of thing? So I use a lot of we'll call half-assed scriptures in my songs. Like, I'll get the gist of the scripture, but I usually won't copy it exactly.
Yeah. You get the message.
Yeah. So,
and but yeah, go ahead and start and stop as you please.
Sure.
It's your music. So
sure. Let's see. We'll get to. It starts up pretty quickly. So
okay. There's where your guitar harmonies come in.
So you can hear the vocal a lot better.
Yes, I think so.
Story about Peter denying Jesus 3 times before the cock crows.
Yeah.
So I ask people, are you going to do that?
And the answer is no, never. And yeah,
And of course they do.
We do.
We all do.
yeah. You're using a regular voice and
Yeah.
the distorted voice at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, that last part there, that was obviously about him, Jesus dying on the cross for us and being beaten and whipped, and with broken flesh, he claims our ascension, is what the words were there. But
Yeah.
anyway, there's
And-
a lot of pretty, I think, unique and kind of interesting lyrics on the album. But
Yeah.
of course, I would say that because I wrote them.
Oh, you're not biased or anything.
No,
no.
Why would I be?
But
Why?
yeah, we just rolled out of Easter.
Yeah.
And that would have been very appropriate. Well, it's still appropriate.
Which is actually kind of funny. I think this was maybe meant to happen because it just so happened that I finished the recording or the mastering process and then re-uploaded all the songs, and I didn't even realize the timing of it, but it was like they were all up on Easter.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was like Saturday before Easter or Sunday Easter that they all showed up on
Yeah.
Spotify, and so
Things happen for a reason.
I
Don't
guess so.
you know? I mean, we can speculate all we want, but who knows?
yeah, yeah,
No sense in trying to explain it. But yeah, it's very possible that you were motivated and
yeah,
divinely. So yeah, that people can kind of get a taste of what your music's like there, and you're using a combination of the voice qualities and the rhythm guitar and the counter melodies and your lead playing, pretty complex, and then you have the constant drumming with the heavy bass drums. Man, that's a big thing now.
It is. Yeah, well, especially with metalcore.
Oh yeah,
And so yeah, it's kind of like they used to say, I think somebody was talking about Johnny Cash's music. Now it sounded like it was a train rolling through the whole song, and it's kind of like that.
yeah, it kind of is. Okay, so what was the title of that one again?
That one was "This Fire Burns," and
This
we
Fire
didn't
Burns.
even get
Okay.
to the main chorus of the song. That was just
Yeah.
the verse and the pre-chorus.
Well,
So
if the listener wants to hear the rest of it,
Yeah.
then they're going to have to get on Spotify or pay for individual digital copies of the song. And where would they get that? What company is it that sells the individual digital copies, or do you do that?
you can do it through Apple Music would have it. I think you can get them. I don't know if you can purchase them through YouTube Music, but it's up there as well. Basically, any
Okay.
digital distribution platform that's available, it's there.
Okay.
I think it's up on iHeartRadio. There's like 24 or 25 different digital distributors that CD Baby, or not CD Baby, DistroKid puts it up on. And
Okay, that's the yeah, that's right. That's the company.
DistroKid was the one that did all the
Distribution of
distribution. But one thing that was good about the CD Baby taking everything down was I have been working with somebody else on some different projects, and he suggested that I create a publishing company, and so I took the opportunity to do a couple of different publishing companies for my projects and his and I's joint project, and then I created on a few different websites. There's some music services to sign up for that keeps track of licensing and plays, and
Okay.
Things like that. So anyway, now it's, instead of being under CD Baby Publishing or DistroKid Publishing, now it's under Ashes of Tyranny Publishing.
Okay.
So I've got my own publishing company now.
Good. Good. And that way you get control it, and you're not going to have something like what CD Baby did.
I control it, and I should get more, because the way they split it up is the artist gets some, and then the publishing company gets some for the streaming royalties.
Yeah.
But now it's all gonna
And it
filter
should.
its way to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's a lot more self-publishing these days, even in the literary, the books and things like that. It's just hard to promote your own product. You really have to work at it. Like this podcast. And the next one that you're going to do when you do it, Zoom or whatever you're using, that's about the only way you can do it. Or you can have a blog.
Right, you could have a blog. That's too much work for me.
Yeah, but you got to get that following, and I guess that's why these publishers get paid what they do. They take most of the royalties, don't they? The artist really doesn't get as much.
Well, I honestly wouldn't know, because you have to get to a pretty high level of streaming for people to be listening every day for you to actually really get paid on anything.
Yeah.
You typically get like a penny per stream or something like that.
Yeah, it's not very much. I know that from when I had the business downtown, the coffee house restaurant there.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to mention the two music unions, and they harassed us constantly. Even people that had their own music, and they weren't members of any kind of union at the time. They just pretty hard on you. And you would talk to the artist, and they would say, I haven't gotten any money from any union. And some of them were members.
Yeah.
I won't mention their names either.
Right. Yeah.
And the restaurant has to pay a hefty fee every single year, even though they don't even know what music's being played in there.
Yeah.
So unless you're big time.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think the music business is a lot like the guys on the bottom pay for all the guys on the top, basically.
Yeah. And they've got
the small fries end up coming out of pocket for a lot of stuff, and then the guys that are real popular and have a big following end up actually getting paid.
Yeah. That's about how it works. You are exactly right. And of course the lobbyists have their hand in the legislator's pocket. But anyway, that's beside the point. Right, yeah. So it is harder for people like yourself in the music industry to really get your music out there and then get your fair share. So people need to realize that it's just not that easy. What other song would you like to kind of introduce there? Kind of have an idea of that one. Do you have a favorite that you would like to show a clip?
A favorite? I don't know about a favorite. Just to show, I would like to just show kind of the diversity of the songs that are on the album. So there's, let's say 6 of them are pretty highly aggressive, and some of them have their clean or their quote unquote pretty parts to them. Yeah. But there are a couple of songs on the album that are almost 100% pretty. And so I'm going to play one of those, Lost in the World.
Lost in the World. Okay.
And that's on the smack dab in the middle of the album. That's track number 5. And it starts up pretty quick, so we'll just play it from the beginning.
Okay.
Just a little tiny bit of intro, and then the singing comes in.
I see you have a good voice. Your natural voice.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. I always tell the truth. got
A little bit of build up, yeah. Still has that lead guitar line in there. I can't get away from those. I have to have those.
Hey, sounds good. Explain that song. I mean, I'm listening to the words. I kind of get the gist of it,
right.
But what message are you trying to get across on that one?
Just that it's easy to get caught up in the noise and the confusion of the world and lose your way, lose your faith, lose your path. It's easy to focus on something else, and it's a lot of times it's tough to, let's say, right your gaze where it should be, which is focused on the Lord and His purpose, in my opinion. But so that's just kind of about letting the noise of the world kind of take over, and then the chorus there that you heard, there's a line in there about being afraid. That there's a scripture of Jesus saying, "Depart from me, I never knew you."
Yeah.
So there's always that fear that if you don't act right and do right, that He could say that to you. But
yeah,
but so that's kind of what that song's about, is just losing your way and trying to find your way back. And it's really just a plea at the very end, which is just, hey, don't forget about me. I'm still here.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're still talking about music here, but I'd like to kind of get into the, the spiritual part of this whole album. I mean, I remember the last time we talked about this, something motivated you to do this with your music. What was it that inspired you to do an entire metalcore album with just a Christian-based message on this?
So I actually started on this project probably back in 2020, just about right after I finished doing the first album. And I had kind of been collecting guitar riffs and writing songs. And the first one probably after that album was Gospel that I wrote. And I recorded it, and it was in, you may even be able to find it, or that original version on SoundCloud or something. Or I might have taken it down, I don't know. But anyway, so there were several songs that, let's say about 4 songs, that I had written, and they either made their way to SoundCloud or they didn't, depending on kind of how personal they were and whether I wanted to actually share them with people or not. Drowning is one of the ones that is kind of deeply personal, and I wasn't sure if it was going to go on the album or not. Washed in the Blood was, I don't know that I really felt that was in a finished stage. I always kind of felt like that should have some more to it, but at the same time, I also wasn't writing it anymore. So, so at a certain point, I just decided, you know what, we might as well package this one up and do what we can to finish it off. And so there's a couple that made it on there. So I didn't plan on sharing them, and then at the end I did. And then there was a few that in the last couple of years, I wrote specifically for the album once I decided, you know what, I'm going to actually I'm going to compile all these songs and I'm going to do a Christian album. And then I had like 6 songs. I was like, well, that's not really enough for an album. So then I wrote 4 more actually, because the ones that are pretty much new that showed up on the album that I hadn't had before I decided to really do the Christian album so the new ones were Lost in the World, the final song, The Jesus Christ I Know, and then The Sacrifice and This Fire Burns were the basically brand new ones that I wrote to put specifically on the album. And then the other ones on the album were ones that I had kind of written from 2020 to 2023, let's say, and they existed in a quasi-final form until I decided to go ahead. And I guess what kind of spurred me to actually release a full-length Christian album was the fact that I had I don't know that I would consider myself a part of any specific church right now. And it was kind of that bouncing around and that journey that caused me to sort of want, I guess, a greater purpose with my music. And so that's kind of what made me release this album specifically, was that I felt, why not? You know, I'm supposed to be, if I believe what I believe, then I'm supposed to be doing everything for the glory of God and to glorify Him. And so what better way to do that than to use my gifts to put songs out specifically that point to Him?
Yeah. Well, and one could definitely rationalize the fact that there was never really supposed to be a completely organized church,
right,
as the main source of,
sure,
worship. It just came to being. Christ said He was the temple, and right here is the church. Could be.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing that out there for people.
Yeah. No, I don't personally the capital C church, Christ's church, I don't think that's specifically one denomination or one religious organization. I think there are plenty of people in each faith that aren't really true Christians, and plenty of people in each faith that are true Christians, with the exception of ones that are clearly not biblically based.
Right.
There are a few of those I won't mention.
But better not.
But other than churches that specifically do not follow Scripture and biblical teachings, there's for instance, I was raised Catholic, and I've met plenty of Catholics that I didn't really feel they just kind of were going through the motions, and they were more following the ritual than following Jesus. And I think that exists kind of everywhere.
Yeah, it's every denomination, I think, is like that.
Yeah.
They have their people that just attend, and it's just the way it is. It's always been that way, I guess, and it's always been a failing of human beings.
Well, sure.
And we just have to keep trying, I guess. But yeah, I don't know about the organized church. It is a good place to go, and it really depends on the individual person, what they get out of it, and whether it's authentic or not. So
yeah, and I haven't specifically decided not to go to church anywhere. I just haven't really found, I guess, what you might call a home church. For a while,
and I really don't think we're going to be ending up in hell because we are still looking, or we're still trying to figure out. Doesn't have to be a building or an organization. You could be just fine.
Yeah.
In your pursuit, and actually writing music is one way of doing that.
Yeah.
Spreading the gospel.
Yeah. I don't think specific denominations are important, really, just as long as they teach and follow the Bible, as it is. I know there's a lot of churches out there that will make up their own version of Jesus because they'll try to make it something that they agree with instead of something the Bible says. Other than that, I think it helps to have a church to go to if you're not really strong in your faith. I think if you're not sure what to do, or you're bad at being faithful, so to say, then churches are good. They help you connect with other believers, and they help you get and stay on the right path. But you don't have to have, I don't think, a church to go to specifically to worship or whatever. Because this album right here, this is how I worship.
Yeah. Well, and I've heard some people say, even pastors say, that their best worship time is when they're in a tree, hunting out in the woods by himself or herself. No names mentioned, but that's the best time. Yeah. In the peace and quiet out there. Up a little higher, and you can see everything. That's not me. I don't have that opportunity to spend time, hunting and, being out in the woods. But I get it. So, in the time we have left, by the way, I appreciate you coming in. It was just kind of the spur of the moment to talk about it's interesting that, a person can have an album and then something happens, you don't have control over it. And then you go, well, here's an opportunity. I can remaster this. And because over time you may start to think about things that I think that might sound a little bit better, or you want to try something different. Or like you said, the plugins, you have an opportunity to change those and then remaster it and make it even better. And that's what you've done with this album here. Is there another song or example in the time we have left that you would like to share with the audience out there so they can re-examine your album? Or
I think... Yeah,
I know. Decisions, because you have no fluff in here.
There is no
fluff,
filler.
They're all good.
They're all deeply meaningful and personal and all of that stuff. And so I have a hard time picking which is going to be the best to show. Let's do...
You had a contrast there.
Let's do in between. We did a really heavy one, and then we did a really light one. Okay. So let's go with the first track on the album, which is mostly aggressive guitar, but it still kind of hails back to kind of the classic metal sound. Okay. But also almost all of the vocals are sung in a clean voice. Okay. There's a few. One thing that I'll do when I record and produce a song is to make it more interesting. I'll do little punch-in screams and things here, so you'll hear a scream and then it'll start singing and whatever. Yeah. But anyway, so one of the things I think, if you heard the first version of the album and you go back and you listen to this version, if you listen, you'll be able to hear the background vocals and the harmonies and everything. You'll be able to hear all of the vocals a lot better, and you'll be able to, because for the first time it was released, I was always listening to it and thought, well, those vocals are kind of buried, and I wish they ended up. So, but you should be able to hear pretty much anyway.
Okay, we'll conclude on this one here.
All right.
And this is called What's the title?
Gospel.
Gospel. Okay. I like your chord progressions.
I try to keep it in the harmonic minor area.
Yeah.
Natural minor, or harmonic minor, and then usually for the choruses, I like to go use the major key connected to that minor key.
Yeah. Relative.
So like, yeah.
Interesting.
Of course, you got the guitar harmony there.
Yeah. I like that effect.
Here, go up to the major key.
That's really from Catholicism.
Yeah.
Kingdom.
Yeah, and if you listen at the start of the chorus, which this is the chorus, if you listen to the beginning of the chorus, you'll actually hear when I start singing, there's also a scream just for kind of atmospheric effect that is behind all the singing.
Yeah.
That carries throughout a lot of the chorus, or a lot of the, I guess it would be the post-chorus, because this technically is the chorus.
Yeah.
Right here. Okay, listen. Hear that high scream behind it?
Yeah. Just
Just enough to notice.
Huh.
And it goes back to the intro theme there.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the song is kind of just sort of clean guitar and clean vocals. And what I do is I sort of recycle the post-chorus, and I kind of lyrically, and we cannot live on bread alone. Lyrically, it's boring because I reuse all the same stuff from throughout the song, but musically, it's interesting because I use those same words, but then I kind of weave them. I sing the chorus a little bit differently, and then I weave the other stuff throughout in lots of, like at a certain point, I think there's 5 different voices going at the same time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's one of the things I like to do, is I like to kind of make things weave in and out, and have a lot of stuff going on at the same time. And I like to sort of bury things in songs where, it's still interesting on the 17th time you've listened to it. So
Yeah, this section here is kind of a contrasting section in the entire song.
yeah.
And you'll eventually get back and recap the beginning and to end it.
And then it basically goes.
Okay, yeah, it's going to be building here.
So it's the chorus, but it's sung a little different way.
And there's the...
And I weave in those other vocals as well.
This is probably my favorite.
Nothing wrong with that.
It's just a personal...
Yeah, no, I like it.
thing.
It's a good one. But it's a pretty long song, and it does this sort of repeating over and over again, just because I wanted to give people plenty of time to be able to pick out the different vocal parts and everything. So anyway, at the risk of getting boring, but then the next one kind of hits you in the face anyway. So
the song after this one?
Yeah, the song after just kind of punches you in the face right away. So
Oh, great.
yeah. But anyway,
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you described that, how you did all that, because, sometimes people listen to music and it's kind of passive listening, and they don't really, not everybody, but they're not really thinking about all of the different parts in there. I'm a little different. I'm hearing everything, all the different notes and stuff like that, and that's what really excites me is the writing, what goes on behind the words, and the words themselves. I got to hear it all. And I kind of like the remaster on this.
the vocals pop a lot more.
Yeah.
The guitars are much less abrasive. They
but they're still there. I mean, you can still hear them.
Sure,
fine.
they're still there. They're still up front.
Yeah.
They have more of like a, I don't know, more of like maybe a violin-y type quality to them.
Yeah.
Lots of low mids in there and lots of warmth. I will say a warning to any of people listening on Spotify on your phone. I happen to know that the app, it does this weird thing where if you have the volume normalization on, it kind of squashes a lot of the audio. Like for some reason there's not nearly as much bass when the volume normalization is on. And so on your phone, if you go into the Spotify app settings and the playback settings, you can go down and you can find where it says normalize audio and switch that off. Because how I have it, I actually have the songs, what's recommended is to do like a negative 14 LUFs, but I go closer to negative 10 or negative 9. So when it squashes it all the way back down to 14 or negative 14, then it tends to take a lot of the low end and the meat and the chunk.
Oh man, we don't want that.
So you don't want to take the meat out.
So go into settings and get rid of the normalization.
Yeah, normalize audio feature. The tracks, as you go from one album to another artist's album, will probably differ in volume, but as far as the sound quality, if that's something you're a stickler for, your ears will thank you, because it will allow you to listen to the album really how the producer truly intended. There's not as much, it doesn't color the sound nearly as much.
Yeah, I would rather hear it the way the artist wanted it to be heard instead of having a feature on streaming there to decide what I hear. Yeah, I don't want that. That's like putting a filter on something. Don't want it. I want to hear it the way I can adjust the volume.
Yeah, if I hear something really hit me hard and say, wow, that's really loud, I can always just go,
Yep, down.
So,
and it's not going to be that severe. I don't think it would be.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's really not. It's just like a couple of decibels, which is almost nothing.
Yeah, I want to go through I want to look at the titles here on this album. You've got number 1 is Gospel. Number 2 is Drowning.
Yep.
Number 3 is I can't read. But
Banish the Darkness.
Banish the Darkness. I am going blind. Might be my bifocals here. Demagogue. Lost in the World.
Yep.
The Fire Burns, which we heard part of. Washed in the Blood. I think there's a hymn, or a hymn that has the words "washed by the blood."
There is, yeah,
because it comes from the Jesus Christ I know, and
that's the last one.
That's it.
And the one right before that is the Sacrifice.
Oh, I skipped it. Okay, yeah. 8 is the Sacrifice. This is my body.
Yeah.
And then the Jesus Christ I know. Okay, yeah, it's all Christian-based metal core album by Jamison Brummel. So, yeah, very good. I think I'm going to enjoy this remaster.
Well, I think you will, because I know you kind of like to hear the vocals above everything else. And I made sure, because one of the issues I have with my own studio monitors is the vocals always pop out. No matter what I do, no matter where I put them in the mix, usually the vocals, I can really, really hear it. And so I was having, what I did was I would master a version, and then I would put it on Dropbox as my sharing thing that I usually use, and I would put it up on Dropbox, and then I would go out to my car, and I would listen to it in my car, and if the vocal was still hearable or audible or still popped out like I wanted it to, then that was good enough. And so because varying sets of speakers will, play the songs differently based on what frequencies are in them.
And every recording artist has to do exactly that every single time. Play it on different media just to get a compromise. And, you just can't play it on one thing. Because, I like a lot of bass. I try to keep it pretty normal, but I do like to have that rich bottom. And then, of course, I like to hear the vocals because I'm interested in the lyrics too. Yeah. But I still want to hear all of those counter melodies and the guitar parts and things, because that's kind of exciting too. And of course the drums and stuff. So it's very good. And I hope people will re-examine this, and the artwork, Ashes of Tyranny, with you got the 3 crosses there, and it's a really neat work of art. I'm impressed. Similar to what you had before, but very good. Need to pass that on to your illustrator.
If you give me just a second, I can actually tell you who it was.
Yeah. He needs...
Rafael Tavares Grip is his name.
Okay.
So, and I can see how to spell it, but I can't explain it to you. So good luck.
You've heard the name. He's gotten credit.
Yeah. So he did the album art. Of course, it was worthwhile, and since it was a remaster, he didn't charge me as much as he normally does for fresh album art. So I kind of got a deal on that. But anyway, it ended up really well, I thought.
That's great.
I enjoyed it, and it's a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun doing the mixing and mastering process and all of that. But I'm glad it's done at a certain point.
Yeah, you want to hear...
My ears get tired, and I'm just like...
it's fun, but it's kind of a labor of love, too. But then when it's kind of like building a house, you want to get it done so you can step back and look at it. You want to look at the finished product and then just let it go. And hopefully people will reach out and take a listen to this new remaster.
Yeah, and I feel like this was a good way to put an end cap on the project, because the first time it got released, there were things that I would listen to throughout, every time I listened to it, and I would think, well, I wish this were a little different, or this were a little different, or I wish I'd done this with the guitar tone, or I wish I had less delay on the vocal, or something like that. And so, but this kind of, it turned out almost exactly like I wanted it to.
Good.
So
yeah, good deal. Well, Jamison, thank you so much for coming on Verity Seeker. I know it was kind of last minute and kind of on the fly, really.
That's all right.
But I I like the informal discussion about your music. So I appreciate it very much. And
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. And
seeing you again.
absolutely. I know. We haven't talked in a while.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Verity Seeker. I'm your host, Mark Powls, and this is Jamison Brummel, the music artist.
Enjoy.
Recording artist. Yeah, there we go. Recording.